This video is sponsored by CuriosityStream. Imagine a city so large and growing so fast that the federal government has to encourage development in nearby cities to absorb the migrants moving to the main city. And those smaller cities would already, on average, have 1 million people living in them. That's exactly what's happening in India's national capital region, home to Delhi. Delhi is a city experiencing rapid urbanization thanks to in-migration from rural areas in India. The city boasts per capita incomes 3 times higher than the national average, and that level of opportunity is appealing. At the same time, Delhi is struggling to welcome all migrants by expanding roads, sewers, water, and other essential services. The result is a proliferation of slums and informal settlements. The city can't keep up with growth. Back in 1985, the National Capital Region's Planning Board proposed a solution. Identify cities within 100 to 400 kilometers of Delhi and encourage migrants to move there, usually through development projects in those satellite cities to encourage new development, affordable housing, and job opportunities. These satellite cities would be called counter-magnets because they're meant to attract people away from Delhi, itself a massive magnet for migrants. The planning board chose 5 cities from 5 different adjacent states, each situated to form a ring around Delhi to hopefully attract migrants from every direction. This plan makes a lot of sense, on paper at least, and since the program began, those cities have received loan assistance to build the required projects of the counter-magnet program. The results, though, have not been what Indian authorities would have hoped. There were simply not enough new opportunities created for migrants, and people kept moving to Delhi. The Regional Planning Agency has since added more cities to the program. Will more mean better? It remains to be seen. But this is the kind of large-scale creative problem-solving a region like Delhi has to undertake to solve its growth management issues. In 2030, the region will be home to a projected 39 million residents, meaning it will overtake Tokyo in the world rankings to become the most populous city on Earth. And that's just the UN's estimate. India's own estimate for the region has the population at 46 million people. I did a video on Tokyo a couple of years ago profiling the history of today's world's largest city. I think it's time to do one for Delhi, seeing as how it'll become the world's most populous city in the next few years, if it hasn't already. In this video, we're going to explore the megacity of Delhi and try to understand how it's facing the challenge of being home to 46 million people. It has to employ some pretty innovative planning techniques. Let's get into those after the bike bell. 46 million people in one city. Well, kinda sort of. When you're talking about the largest cities in the world, the measuring stick is usually the metropolitan region. In India, the National Capital Region coordinates Delhi's planning. It includes the entire National Capital Territory, a state-level division, as well as several adjacent districts from the states of Haryana, Uttar Pradesh, and Rajasthan. The region is massive, 55,000 square kilometers. Only about 63% of the region is actually urbanized, though urbanization is happening rapidly. Here's a look at Delhi's urbanization through time, starting with the boundaries of the urbanized area at about 1950. Everything built between 1400 BCE to 1950 fits in there. By 1975, the urbanized area more than doubled. That's because its regional population doubled from 5 to 10 million right after Indian independence and the partition in 1947. And by 1997, the area doubled yet again and was really absorbing nearby cities. And today, you can see the enormous extent of the urban area. There are a couple of landmarks worth pointing out right here. First is Old Delhi, or Shah Jahanabad, built by the Emperor Shah Jahan when he moved the capital of the Mughal Empire from Agra to the city in 1638. He built a magnificent palace called the Red Fort right here. He also built the massive mosque, Jama Masjid, shortly afterward. The main roads between important buildings in Old Delhi became large bazaars, shopping streets basically. Old Delhi's urban fabric is obviously quite different than the urbanism found in New Delhi, designed by the British when it made Delhi the capital of colonial India in 1911. The British Raj originally had the capital in Kolkata, but the city became a hotbed for nationalist anti-British sentiment. The British justified the move in part because they felt like Delhi had a healthier climate for its imperial workforce, and they had control of large parcels of land where they could build a capital city worthy of the jewel of the British colonial empire. Designed by the British architect Edwin Lutyens, the plan was meant to convey British colonial power. It was considered a more civilized view of a city, meant to contrast with the dense energy of Old Delhi. If you've noticed the axes and diagonal boulevards look like Washington, D.C., you'd be right. Washington was indeed a key precedent used. And if you notice that it also looks suspiciously like the plan for Australia's capital, Canberra, you'd also be right. And now you're just flexing your knowledge of planned capitals. Canberra was designed at essentially the same time as New Delhi, and both had garden city origins. What was urban development like in Delhi after the British built New Delhi? Well, New Delhi normalized leafy, low-density suburban development in the area. New Delhi was designed to house 60,000 people at a density far lower than Old Delhi. Yet middle-class Indians now viewed low-density sprawl as the way to grow, and many areas of Delhi now exemplify that model. But you also have other incredibly dense nodes throughout the region, which include other old cities like Old Delhi absorbed into the metro by suburban development, or high-density unplanned slums. The east bank of the Yamuna River in particular has experienced rapid urbanization that has outpaced the extension of critical services like water and sewer. Delhi's population grew after it became the capital, and exploded after independence with the partition of India. How did the city start responding to this incredible growth? The city adopted the Delhi Master Plan of 1962, written by a group of American and Indian planners. It definitely came with a Western bent, too, and viewed the density of Old Delhi as undesirable. It instead preferred low-density residential development. Mixed-use development was discouraged. Commercial development was to be clustered in nodes that were often far from housing, and the entire city would be ringed by a greenbelt. How did the plan work out? Well, Delhi grew a lot faster than planners envisioned. The greenbelt eroded and Delhi eventually grew and merged with nearby cities. At the same time, the city didn't build enough of those commercial centers. Mixed-use development happened instead, and it was sort of ad hoc, and they didn't achieve the organization they were hoping for. By the 1980s, the city was adding 1.6 million people per year. Traffic emerged as one of the biggest challenges as the distance between land uses grew as the metro area grew. The city had highways and a bus network, but no metro system befitting a city that now had about 9 million people just within the city limits. In the 1990s, local officials began to draft serious plans for a new system, and construction began in 1998. The Red Line was the first to open in 2002, and since then 8 more lines have been added, with the most recent opening in 2019. The system now has 254 stations and 384 kilometers of track. The Delhi Metro provides about 2.5 million rides per day, which is substantial, but still somewhat below expectations for a city of its size. By comparison, Tokyo's 2 metro systems provide nearly 10 million rides per day. But there's already an adopted plan for another round of expansions that would add 100 kilometers of lines and 115 stations. Getting Delhi residents out of cars is imperative, as air pollution is nearly off the charts. In November of 2021, India's Supreme Court announced a lockdown of the capital region that would ban all non-essential travel to get the air pollution under control. The air quality index in some places was over 400 on a 500-point scale. For reference, here in California, students are not allowed outside during recess if the AQI is above 100. In Delhi, no surprise, schools were just straight up cancelled. The region sees bad air quality in the winter months, when vehicle-related emissions mix with nearby crop burning practices after the harvest. Next on the list of megacity challenges after air pollution and traffic are slums. Delhi does have some, though less than 1/5 of the urban areas covered by them. That's a percentage lower than a city like Mumbai. This is due in part to the system of urban villages that already exists. These 135 villages originated as agricultural towns that lost their agriculture due to urbanization. The National Capital Region's policy for these villages was simply to draw a red line around them, exempt them from any planning regulations, and prohibit outsiders from buying land there. Villagers then began to subdivide properties and build dense housing to accommodate growing demand for affordable housing. As they are largely unregulated, these urban villages are still not up to code and are rather haphazard, but they acted as a sponge and soaked up some of the migrants so they didn't have to build their own slum homes. Some of the urban villages have even transformed into hip, trendy destinations, as they attracted artists and small business owners looking for affordable places to set up shop. Hauz Khas Village is known in Delhi as the prime example of this phenomenon, with its art galleries and alleys, food stalls, and fancy restaurants. The problem with doing a video on the soon-to-be largest city on the planet is that there's so much to talk about. This has just been a brief overview of the way this city has been dealing with the challenges associated with extreme urbanization. If you'd like to see some more Delhi content, check out the video on New Delhi over on Nebula. New Delhi is a fascinating piece of British colonial urbanism and a unique entry into the planned capital genre. And if you're not interested in Delhi, I might still have you covered. I have 7 other videos not available on YouTube, and I add a new one each month. I also have 16 videos with bonus content not available on YouTube, and an entire 20-minute video on planning ancient Rome that might be one of my favorite videos of all time. There's also a ton of exclusive content on Nebula from real-life lore, mustard, and more. And that content actually replaces this ad because there aren't any ads on Nebula. And this deal gets even better because Nebula is bundled with CuriosityStream. CuriosityStream is the source for high-quality, engaging documentaries. If you're interested in learning more about the British Empire and India, you can check out Empire, a mini-series that chronicles the way the British Empire reshaped the globe for its benefit. It adds some great context to the discussion of Delhi and New Delhi. We have a deal where if you sign up for CuriosityStream using the link below, you'll get Nebula for free. That's not a free trial, but free as long as you're a CuriosityStream member. And they're running a special deal where you can get an entire year for 26% off. That's less than $15 a year for CuriosityStream and Nebula. Signing up is a great way of supporting this channel as well as the dozens of other creators working to make Nebula a success. Overall, it's just a really great deal too, so go click on the link in the description and get 26% off.